Crazy. It's coming out now that China wants to pump the Bitcoin price. On Alipay, the largest payment platform in China, there's now Bitcoin ads for buying Bitcoin. That's insane. Also, the founder of Binance, CC, is making a huge statement and believes that Bitcoin will rise to dollar levels. He also states that the Bitcoin price should already be much higher by now. He's making the bullish case for Bitcoin. And now we see Michael Saylor constantly taking shots at gold and advocating for a speculative attack on the gold market. He's also provoking a currency war here, of course. He's calling again to sell gold, buy Bitcoin, and wants to push the US to seize 25% of the Bitcoin network for itself, or not seize it, but at least to own it. Here, of course, he's also provoking a currency war. He's calling again to sell gold, buy Bitcoin, and wants to push the US to seize 25% of the Bitcoin network for itself, or not seize it, but at least to own it. Super exciting things are happening right now. First, let's take a look at China, because China has now officially opened up a bit. Bitcoin is now officially property in China, and it seems that Bitcoin advertisements are also allowed in China now. That hasn't been allowed for a really long time. Now we even see it on Alipay, the biggest platform, which has 1 billion users. Just think about that. And 1 billion users are now seeing ads every day about how to buy Bitcoin, how you should buy Bitcoin. Here, Bitcoin ETFs are being promoted. The Bitcoin ETF from KT Woods, from ARK Invest, is advertised here. And in my opinion, that's a massive catalyst. Just like in the US, where Bitcoin ETFs are now really running ads and so on, we're seeing something similar happening in China. And China is a huge capital market. If even more capital flows into Bitcoin here, it could definitely pump the Bitcoin price even higher. And China is a huge capital market. If even more capital flows into Bitcoin here, it could definitely keep pumping the Bitcoin price up. According to a report from Chinese Crypto Adoption News, ads for cryptocurrency funds have suddenly appeared on the homepage of Alipay, China's largest payment platform, which has over 1 billion users. The main investment is going into the ARK Invest ETF, and there are indirect investments happening in Coinbase and the ARK Bitcoin Spot ETF. Every Chinese person can buy cryptocurrencies worth $107.30 every day. Here you can already see the little catch. There are capital controls in China, and it seems that it's not possible to just buy unlimited Bitcoin ETFs here. Now, this is being promoted by here, for example, Coinbase or by Bitcoin ETFs. So now the Coinbase stock is being promoted too, and it's possible to buy small amounts here, but they might not want too much capital to flee the country because China still has capital controls. You can only take out a certain amount of US dollars, I don't know how many yuan that is, per year, and of course there are limits on how much Bitcoin you can buy, but at least those restrictions are starting to loosen up a bit. I mean, 130 euros a day spread out over the month is already a decent amount. Most people might not even manage that, so it's really, really positive to see this. I don't think there's really an equivalent to Alipay in Germany or anything like that, like an everything app where you can do it all, chatting, shopping, placing orders, checking the news, and so on. We have a centralized app that starts running ETF ads like by the KT Wood, ARK Invest ETF, and Invest in Bitcoin. CZ, the Binance founder, was detained but is now released. He made a bullish statement at a men's conference in Abu Dhabi, where many countries are pushing Bitcoin prices up. So you could maybe compare it like that. So you can see the scale of what's happening here. And then we have CZ. I have no idea how to pronounce that guy's name. Some people commented that I mispronounced it last time. Anyway, he's the founder of Binance, who has been partially detained but is now released. He made a bullish statement at the men's conference in Abu Dhabi that really packs a punch, and it ties back to China's approach, where now many countries are trying to actively push the Bitcoin price up. Donald Trump has already revealed that he's actively trying to push the Bitcoin price, and Eric Trump is also actively trying to push the Bitcoin price.
I'm really struggling to compare the world of case studies to Eating Last and Pearly with Gold, which has a 16 choice and our working capital.
I think it should be worth way more than that because, like you said, it has so many advantages over gold. Gold isn't a limited asset. People control the supply of gold by not mining it, but we don't really know how much is out there. With Bitcoin, we know exactly how scarce it is, and there's not a whole lot left. Plus, it's easier to carry, easier to spend, and easier to use. So there's so much more potential, and we shouldn't judge the potential of a new asset class or industry by comparing it to old ones. You shouldn't estimate Uber's market cap by just looking at taxis. They can do so much more. I think with this new technology for money, we can achieve a lot more. Bitcoin can do a lot more than gold ever could. So gold is hard to transfer, hard to carry, hard to send. on an international level. Can't be used as a transaction currency like Bitcoin can. So yeah, I think with cryptocurrencies, we can handle microtransactions and big transactions. So there's a ton of stuff that crypto can do that. Gold just can't. So Bitcoin should definitely be valued way higher. You heard it here, folks.
Bitcoin should definitely be worth way more than gold. $16 trillion market cap, I think that's like...
CZ is making a really strong bullish case for Bitcoin here. But I'm realizing that he might even be a bit too bearish because he says that Bitcoin is definitely better than gold and will at least surpass gold's market cap. And then David Bailey, the interviewee, makes the case that Bitcoin will rise against the US dollar. I was thinking before that the US dollar had some kind of wrong number in my head. But the arguments that CZ is making are really spot on. He says that Bitcoin has many advantages over gold. Gold isn't limited, and many people don't realize this. He knows there are only 21 million Bitcoins, but he's unaware of how much gold remains in the world or universe. Bitcoin is easier to transport and use. It's simpler to spend Bitcoin than to use gold at a bakery. He knows Bitcoin's limit, but not gold's. Bitcoin is easier to transport and use, and spending it is simpler than using gold at a bakery. He compares Ubers to taxis, saying Uber's market cap can be much higher because it's superior technology. The same applies to Bitcoin. And now here comes the craziest part. He compares Ubers to taxis and says that Uber's market cap can definitely be way higher than a taxi's market cap because Uber is just the superior technology compared to a taxi. And we have exactly the same thing with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the superior technology compared to gold, and that's why the market cap of Bitcoin can rise much higher than that of gold. And there are still so many other examples. For instance, the internet technology is like comparing a classic method like a carrier pigeon or something with smoke signals or even an old telegraph or something like that. That's where the internet really shines in terms of information transfer. And that's why a company that builds on the internet can be way more profitable and potentially reach a much higher market cap, like, for example, Amazon, Apple, or even Google or something like that, Meta. There are so many companies that are building on the internet protocol. A technology like that has way more potential, and a company that builds on that kind of technology is going to be way ahead compared to a company that relies on smoke signals, carrier pigeons, or even just letters or some old Morse code or telegraph from 50 years ago or something. Those are all old technologies, and it's the same with gold and Bitcoin. Bitcoin has the massive advantage here, and according to CC, will rise to a minimum of US dollars in today's purchasing power. But he says the Bitcoin price should actually be much higher right now, but people just don't get it. You can also take a look at what's been going on with Microsoft. The day before yesterday, it came out that they do not want to buy Bitcoin here. And now it's actually come out how many people voted for or against it. And let's take a quick look at how many people that was. Only 0.55% of the people who participated in this vote on whether Bitcoin should be implemented at Microsoft actually voted for a Bitcoin strategy. The rest just said, no, we'd rather stick to smoke signals and Morse code, and we prefer to rely on old school technology. But I mean, have fun staying. Wow, 1,000 is basically a great opportunity for us to buy Bitcoin cheap. Everyone gets the Bitcoin price they deserve. On the other hand, it would of course not be smart to make the whole thing public and, let's say, to go public and say that we are now buying Bitcoin, because then of course a lot of people would front run. So it could maybe be some kind of sneaky plan to secretly buy Bitcoin, but that's probably a stretch since it was a public vote, as far as I understand. So I think they're more likely to miss the boat on this technology, and MicroStrategy will end up overtaking Microsoft in 3 or 4 years, or maybe not. So that's obviously a bit of an exaggeration, but it could definitely happen that MicroStrategy ends up surpassing all those other companies that aren't investing in Bitcoin and are still relying on old technology, like on fiat money, on the dollar, on bonds, on stocks, and so on. All these companies that rely on those old technologies are eventually going to be overtaken by MicroStrategy. And now check out what Michael Saylor has to say about a speculative gold attack. He's warning again and advocating for selling off the gold reserves in the U.S.
Dump the gold and buy Bitcoin. Just sell it all and gold and buy Bitcoin, and you get 25% of the Bitcoin network for free. You just sell it all and take gold out of the game for good. Put a stake in its heart and buy Bitcoin, and you get 25% of the Bitcoin network for free. But it's better, right? Print money to buy Bitcoin, devalue your enemy's network. Reduce gold from 20 trillion to 4 trillion. Devalue non-US gold. Boost Bitcoin and gain 25% of the Bitcoin network. That's brutal when you think about it. You might as well drive gold from a $20 trillion asset to a $4 trillion asset. Devalue the assets of gold held by every non-US entity. Try Bitcoin to the roof and then have 25% of the Bitcoin network.
And that's a pretty harsh statement when you really think about it. He clearly says we should demonetize the gold market by selling the gold and buying Bitcoin with it. He also clearly says, no, don't use the money printer to buy Bitcoin. You can at most do that additionally, but the important thing is that you harm the enemies, that is, the pre-nations. This is essentially a call for a speculative currency attack against the BRICS nations. So you're not firing bazookas or sending tanks into these countries. Instead, you're selling the gold, you're selling the enemy's money, and buying Bitcoin. So, according to Michael Saylor, you could do this almost for free, not really for free, but you'd have to give up the gold. You could almost do it for free and accumulate 20 to 25% of the Bitcoin holdings. It would have such a massive advantage, it would lead to the demonetization of the gold market. Of course, it wouldn't drop to zero. I actually just made a video about that recently. Some people said, yeah, gold doesn't just drop to zero. Of course, it won't drop to zero, but it would be enough if suddenly the central bank reserves in all the BRICS countries are only worth half or something like that. I mean, what do you think is going to happen then? What kind of panic is going to break out in the market? That's a really sneaky idea. I don't know if I should think that's good or bad. Feel free to let me know in the comments below, because this is really, I would say, a hot topic that Michael Saylor talks about often. You don't really want to make enemies, but he's definitely making some here. And now, feel free to check out the Bitcoin Hotel shop. They have these awesome Flower of Life t-shirts. It's really my favorite t-shirt right now. I don't watch it almost every day, but definitely very often. There are also some really cool other things like hardware wallets, backup security tools, and so on. Just click on the shop down below on YouTube and scroll through the products. Then the next recommendation is to definitely check out 21 Bitcoin. Here's probably the easiest way to buy Bitcoin in Europe. You can easily use the code Bitcoin Hotel. You can save up to 20% on fees when buying Bitcoin. It's really happening. This could also be about Michael Saylor's speculative gold attack, if that really happens, the whole story. Frontrunner, check it out. My new bike is down here that I bought with Bitcoin. Here, let's fucking go. My first bike that I bought here with Bitcoin. I'm gonna go hiking here later. And now let me know down below what you think about the whole story. Of course, leave me a subscription too. That really helps the channel gain traction, especially now that Bitcoin is really picking up speed. We're really entering the hot phase now. It's important for people to know and understand what's going on here. See you later. Peace out, usend.